Hello everybody, welcome to another session of HPSG. In the previous video we have looked at meaning and how meaning can be represented in terms of feature structures. We proposed basically three features. In this video we are going to look at how we are going to fit those semantic features into our grammar, that is HPSG. And we are also going to look at the SYN-SEM structure. We'll look at how what it is. Then we are also going to look at modification. We had earlier posited a rule called head modifier rule. We are going to modify it further to get into finer details of modification. So to begin with, how semantic features fit into HPSG. The basic analysis of linguistic meaning in terms of features needs a way to fit into our grammar. What kind of way? How are we going to do that? We are going to introduce new features. The two new features are syntax and semantics. In short, we say syn and sem. Into our feature structure, feature structures of words which we have already analyzed in terms of features. Then these two, syn and sem, add another level of embedding of our feature structures. So we have a syntactic side and we also have a semantic side of all feature structures, which we will assign to the type called SYN-SEM structure or SYN-SEM struct. SYN-SEM struct is a type which will have syntax and semantic, two subtypes. Okay, so how is it represented? Look at the picture here. Remember, we had earlier analyzed our words into feature structures which had three different features: head, specifier and comms. Head will have head value, and then specifiers will have values which the word requires, and comms will specifies the complements which a word requires. These three form syntax. And in the previous video we have seen that there are three features which we need for analyzing linguistic meaning: mode, index and restriction. These three features form semantics or SEM for us. So we have a feature structure now for any word or a phrase which has SYN-SEM, and syn has three features and sem has three features. This is the basic structure which we are going to use to analyze all words and phrases. We may add more features to it, but this is the fundamental structure. This structure now, SYN-SEM structure or SYN-SEM struct, let's look at how we are going to represent words. So we see that SYN-SEM of pronouns, we have pronouns, shows both the syntactic features and semantic features, right? Not only pronouns, even nouns or common nouns. Look at a common noun here, woman, which has a syntax and semantics. Syntax will have a head feature, specifier feature and comms. Because it's a common noun, it's a count noun, and so it needs a determiner. What happens is, in its specifier we are going to have specifier determiner agreement, and agreement actually it agrees with the head noun because it is a third singular. So agreement first third singular here, head value is noun and agr is third singular, that is co-indexed here. And woman doesn't need any comms, so the word woman doesn't need any comms, so it's empty. What is its semantics? The word woman's semantics is, it's a noun, so mode will be a reference, and then you have an index I, which is basically an instance in the restriction. In the restriction value we have relation woman, situation s, and in the situation there is one instance of the word woman, which is I, which is matched with index. When you look at proper names are always assumed as simple referring expressions. right? Remember our expressions in our previous course? Yes, that has, it is mostly assumed in all the grammars. So even here we say that a proper name is nothing but a referring expression, and whose referent must be appropriately named. If you have a referent, that is, if you say there is a word Kim refers to a person. That is, there is a person in the world, in the situation, that person is named as Kim, right? So we say that all NPs have an index as their index value. Okay, have an index as their index value. So Kim is a proper noun, so it's a noun, and it has syntax and semantics. Syntax is head value is noun. It has agreement, which is third person singular. Because it's a proper noun, it doesn't need any specifier and it doesn't need any complements, so they are empty. What is its semantics? The word Kim is a noun, so it has a mode value reference, and index has index. What does it in that index value? That refers to a person. So where is that person? That person is as a restriction we get here. So restriction, relation, it's a name. Situation S, in a situation S, there is a something called a name, which is Kim, and there is an individual I who is named as Kim. So relation between here between the individual and the name is given. That is the name, right? This is what we're going to do for proper nouns or definite expressions. Let's go further. Let's look at synsem structure of verbs too. So we can associate semantics of NPs with the particular roles they play in a verb's predication. Now verb has a predicate. Predicate will have different roles. So if you say the word love, there is a lover and there is loved. If you remember, the other day we were talking about that. And the NPs which we are talking about here, those have to be given roles in the verb, in the verb's predication. So we shall assume that the role arguments within predications are indices. How are we going to indicate the roles? The role arguments, we are going to indicate them with indices. So this achieves the desired result by letting a verb specify links between the indices of its specifiers and complements and role arguments in the predication on the restriction list of its own semantics. Right? This allows what? The verb's arguments and the verb and the nouns which we have as arguments. So they are co-indexed, they are indexed. How does this work? We have taken a verb, we have taken the verb love and we are illustrating it here. So the word love, its syntax has three features. Its head value is verb. It needs a specifier which is an NP, and it needs a complement NP which has accusative case. We haven't mentioned nominative here. In fact, English has only accusative and nominative here, so it can be nominative. Right? Specifier will have a nominative. Now we are using I and J as indices. Okay, remember them. Now when you look at the verb love's semantics, the mode is proposition. Okay, the mode is proposition. By default it is proposition. When you have it in syntax, when you give a sentence like does John love, then it becomes a question. Otherwise the verb love is a proposition. Mode value is proposition. Index is yes, that is a situation, and restriction value is relation love. Love is a relation between two individuals, two roles. So in that situation, yes, there are two roles, lover and loved. Who is the lover? I. Loved is J. Remember, this I is co-indexed here with the specifier NP, and complement NP here is co-indexed with the loved. So the predication is clear now. That is, there is a lover, there is a loved, and between them there is the relation love. And lover is an NP which becomes specifier for the word love, and loved is the complement NP which becomes a complement for the word love. So the predication is given clearly for the verb. Let's go further. Right. Now let's look at the modification. Remember, we had a head modifier rule earlier, where we had a rule which says a phrase will consist of a phrase and a modifier. We said there is no change in the specifier and complements value of phrases. Okay. Now what we are going to do is we are going to introduce a head feature called mod. Mod is modifier, and that the mod value of a word specifies the kind of thing that word modifies. Okay, because why do you want to have this? We have adjectives which modify nouns or noun phrases. We have adverbs which modify verbs or sentences, right? So there is some kind of relation between the modifier and the modified. So we need to have that relation. In order to consider that, in order to account for that, we use a head feature called mod, and that mod value specifies what it modifies, either noun or noun phrase, or a verb phrase or a sentence, right? So the head modifier rule will be changed to this format: phrase and phrase. Head, this is head data which is a phrase, and head which has a modifier that will have a modifier value, right? This can be a noun phrase, then this phrase here, the modifier phrase, will be a noun phrase. That's what we want. We want to look at it, right? If this is a verb phrase, then we will have a verb phrase. How is that going to work? Let's see. So then we could make it a lexical property of adjectives that they were modified. They were mod nom. Mod will have a nominal value, or mod NP. They will have NP value for the modifier. And a lexical property of adverbs, which will have a VP, will be modified, or S it can modify. Since these modifiers would then pass up their mod value, right? You remember head feature principle. By head feature principle, what happens? The head value of the daughter node will be passed on to head value of the mother node. So if mod is a part of head value, then the mod value will be passed on to mother node. So by head feature principle, the modifier would then pass up their mod value to any phrase that they project. It may be S, or it may be NP, it may be a VP. So we have that rule here. Okay. Now how does it work? Let's look at a sentence. Let's look at a phrase here. We have a phrase, student unaware of the regulations. This is not complete because it needs a specifier. Okay, that's why it is a noun. So this noun consists of a noun and an adjective phrase. Unaware of the regulations is an adjective phrase. So this adjective has a head feature which takes a PP. That is the PP here. Okay, this PP is the modifier. This PP has what? Head modifier with a value. So this adjective, this PP is a complement of the adjective, and this adjective has the head value which has a modifier, and the modifier's value is same as 1. So this adjective, right, this adjective has a requirement that it modifies a nominal that is passed on from here to here. Okay, and this modifies noun. So this is the structure. So what will you see here? Phrase, phrase, then head data. This is a head data phrase, and this phrase has this value. See, this phrase has this value, head modifier 1, right? So here there is an adjective phrase which modifies the nominal. Let's also take a look at how an adverb modifies a sentence. So head modifier rule will also license the verb phrase now, under the assumption that adverbs are lexically specified as mod VP. Right? I have given the head modifier rule again here. So how does it modify? How does an adverb modify? You have an adverb quickly, which has head value 2. Basically 2 is nothing but it modifies a verb phrase. That is passed on to the phrasal node. This is the mother node, this is the daughter node. So this, by head feature principle, the value here is passed down. What is the value? Modified 1. What is 1? It is a VP. So adverb here quickly modifies a VP. Right? Now this is a modifier and you have the head daughter combined together become a phrase. Okay, so the phrase is VP here, this head daughter is VP here, and this phrase has this value, head modified 1. Right? So in fact what we have done here is we have simplified the head modifier rule now. Head modifier rule earlier didn't specify what the modifier modifies, whether an NP or a VP. So we had to write 2 head modifier rules that way. Instead, we have only one modifier rule now, head modifier rule, which is this. Okay, right. What have we learned today? We have seen now how the semantic features fit in the grammar. To fit the semantic features into our grammar, we have added 2 features, sin and sem. Sin takes care of syntax, sem takes care of semantics. Right? And then we have taken a look at a common noun, a proper noun, with both syntax and semantic features. Sin-sem structure. We have seen sin-sem structure of a proper noun, sin-sem structure of a common noun. In the sin-sem structure of a proper noun, the index is co-indexed with, shared with, named, so that the proper noun has a reference to a person called Kim. Right? And we have seen a sin-sem structure of the verb love, and the verb love's predication will say that there is a role, lover, there is another role argument which is loved, and they are co-indexed with, their indices are shared with specifier and complements, so that the predication tells us that verb love needs 2 role arguments, which are, and one role argument is the specifier, another role argument is the complement. And lastly, we have seen modifier rule, head modifier rule. We have included a feature, modifier feature, which we say mod, which actually specifies whether the word modifies noun or verb phrase or a sentence. Let's meet in the next video.